riding down Highway 61. Sides of the roads all lined with fields, nothing but sunset in the windshield. Feel it as soon as I ride into town. This is where I go to slow down. Miles and miles of soybeans and corn. I'm in the place where the blues was born. About a mile from the big muddy river, place I'll always remember. Cabin on the lake and a fishing pole. Forever here I'll rest my soul. I can feel my worries drift away from being out in the sun all day. No matter where in the world I go, I'll always find home on the banks of that oxbow.
What's up, guys? Brad Chappell here. We're at the Spring Grizzly Show in Crothersville, Missouri, and it's going to be a fun weekend here. But I've got two sticks on the show today with me, and we'll let them do a little introduction. And I think the Stache is already known, but go ahead.
Yeah, hey, Stache will jump in there and tell you just in case. I am a guide on Grand Lake. Grand Lake, Oklahoma is where I mainly guide out of. Grove would be a town close to it. Chase these crappie for a living like the rest of us. So I'm here for the first time, and I am enjoying it. So far, so good. Had a great day yesterday and looking forward to today. So knocking out some crappie connection stuff today.
That's right. That's right. Mr. Dan, you don't need a lot of introduction. Everybody in crappie fishing recognizes you pretty quickly.
You can't call me.
That's right.
You can't call me Stache though. I just don't have that little stash there. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, but yeah, just a little bit of crappie fishing over the last I don't know how many years, a bunch, and get to go out there fishing and do some of the tournaments and still and less and less of those, more shows, more seminars.
A lot of promoting.
A lot of promoting, and get to go out and see all of you out here, like with Brad and Crappie Now magazine's my magazine, and
Yep.
Catfish Now, and we are. I want to thank everybody out there because we're all in a family. It takes all of us in all these different things we do.
Absolutely.
And what it's done, we've hit close to 21 million this last year of crappie fishermen out there and catfishermen. So we want to thank all of you out there. And if you're not coming out there to it, please do so.
Yeah.
Look at Brad's all the videos and stuff, and Stache
You
his
bet,
stuff out there. I've actually been up on his stuff
Yeah.
too. So and get ready to start the year with a classic down in Louisiana. And we've got a lot of content. We've got a big writers camp coming up this year. So thanks for having us.
Well, I thought of this subject line here, and we're coming into the springtime, but there's a lot of signs out there. And if you're just getting into crappie fishing, and I wanted to reach out to those guys and help them understand some of the signs that the spawn's about to happen, and you need to start looking in different locations for fish. And that's the kind of subject line I wanted to really focus on, is the signs, and it might not necessarily be even on the water.
Yeah. Hey, there's a lot of signs that
signs.
that a lot of, I guess I say, old timers that just before all the things, live scope, 2D, everything.
Right.
The first one that always pops in mind is the dogwoods are blooming. Every time my grandpa would always say, dogwoods are blooming, we better get out of school a couple days, go check that river out. So the dogwoods are blooming was first sign that I would always look for when I was younger, for sure.
And maybe you're not even familiar with that, but if you're you're driving down the road,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden
yeah.
you see these flowers start popping
Little
up.
white flowers, yeah.
And also the red buds.
Yeah.
Redbuds will be on fire.
Absolutely. And that's one of the signs that you can identify
Yep.
that crappie are going to be spawning whenever that is happening in the woods.
Yep. For sure.
The old timers definitely believed in the
Oh man, you tell
dogwood
me.
deal.
Even if it's 30
One of
degrees
these.
outside.
one of these
This
days.
whole time.
If it's 30 degrees in February, if them dogs were blooming, we're checking that river out. We're going to see if they're on them banks and spawning for sure.
The other major thing, I got to give an example.
Yeah.
I was on Toledo Bend pre-fishing a tournament, and I was catching some 2-pound plus fish, whites that were sitting in cedar trees. And these cedar trees were in 20, 25 feet of water, but the tops of them came way up. These were huge cedar trees. And we were one poling them out of the cedar trees. And I said, man, we're just going to leave this go. We're not going to come back. Cold nights in between. We had a cold front come through after that day we pre-fished, and we had 3 days till the tournament. Well, we had 2 cold nights, and the fish shut down everywhere. Yeah. We didn't go back there, but the fish shut down. So the first day we come out in those trees, we caught 2 fish in 2 hours. He said, what happened? The difference was that night was warm. It never turned cold that night before. So we saw a little bit of activity dancing along the shorelines. So we went into the first little cut that was just down from those cedar trees. They were positioned out there on some ironwood stumps and 4 feet of water. And if you hit the right spot, we caught like 40 fish out of one area as big as this desk here. They were just feeding in there, coming in there. So a warm night or a couple warm nights in a row, and it's on with the dogwoods.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, dogwoods, and I think about the far as the different plants out there. Of course, dogwoods, redbuds, and also azaleas. Those 3 right there. If you definitely catch all the 3 of those blooming, those fish are somewhere spawning in the bank in your area.
They're ready.
Sure.
They are there. Another thing I think of is kind of like Dan mentioned, those warm nights. If I usually see 3 warm nights together, you bet in the springtime those
and
fish are there.
By warm, technically, I always look for 55-degree weather or above, anywhere above 50. So it just depends on what you would picture being warm, but I'd say over 50 degrees, 3 nights in a row over 50.
You can kind of figure out the water temperature of by if you averaged out 3 days in a row, what that temperature would be. It would give you just about nailed it down on water temperature, and that's the easy way to figure out. Say if you got 70-degree days and 50-degree nights,
things are warming
that
up.
water just about after 3 days of that stable kind of pattern is going to be 60.
Yeah.
And the best part about spawn is, say the dogwoods are blooming and all this, not all the fish are going to spawn at the same time. So you got a good window to catch those fish through it. Like the years past, it seems like it's a several week process. You know, thankfully, crappie are smart enough not to all just go up the same day, dump all their eggs. They're smart enough; they'll bounce in and out and do that for a while. So you got some time.
That's a unique subject line, even.
Yeah.
You know, and I know Dustin and I was talking about it, but typically, Dan, how long does a spawn last down there where you're fishing at mainly?
Well, you're going to have a wave that comes in. I call it the early wave, and those are your bigger fish. Usually your bigger fish come in the first wave, and so it's been my experience, the big fish come in first. The males will run in overnight, and they'll be positioned up where they're going to be. The females are going to be back from them. And so we usually, and the moon is a major part of that too.
Right.
You know, full moon, new moon, they're going to be ready on that. And when that's coming and that happens, it's game on. But before that, some of those males will come up on those warming trends, but you won't see the big females.
Right.
So,
and
you'll see more in one wave.
It's just crazy how
2 moons to 3 moons in a row, depending on the weather conditions.
So up to what the moon is
60 days.
60 days over?
Yeah.
And I think I really tripped out Dustin when I told him this a while back, but like Barnett, Ross Barnett, where I got at, the spawn would actually start in the first part of March. And it's usually typically the bigger fish, in my mind, in my opinion, is going to be that first initial set of spawning fish. But through the last couple of years with the aid of live sonar, I've realized these fish really don't stop spawning or get completely through until the 1st of June. First week of June.
All the way to the 1st of June.
So, I think a lot of people think, well, it's just going to last that initial hit. Well, this spawn's going to last, and this whole series from Grizzly Jig, I'm focusing a lot on spawn fishermen and really helping you guys dig into the process and thought process of fishermen to capitalize during the spawn, but it's not a 2-week period. It's not a month period.
Yeah.
It is a long-lasting event, and different waves kind of happen, and
There's definitely a peak, though.
There's peak.
Always a peak. It seems like you'll hit at least a week that is just lights out, unbelievable bank fishing, and then you'll just start. It's kind of like a steady pace of bank fishing. But there is a peak, I feel. Definitely. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it's like sometimes when you hit it at the right time, it's just like you
Game
can't
on.
do. You wiggle your finger in the water, you're catching a limited crappie, and then it just seems like then you'll have to fish a little bit more banks and more areas, but they'll still be spawning.
I think of the spawn too. A lot of times, if you can get really good at catching crappie during the spawn, the rest of the year will become easy.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. No doubt about it. In fact, the other thing is, too, don't get just locked on fishing shallow, like my river, especially river fishing. We had a series of cold fronts come on every single full moon in the time frame where everything was blooming, and it pushed them off. And we had some absorbed. I've seen that happen. But we had white crappie that were spawning on a ledge in a drop-off that they were spawning 20 feet down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was actually going to jump into that too, saying that every lake is different, every river's different on the depth they spawn. So a lot of people can mess up, and the water clarity, I think, has a lot to do with it too, but a lot of people will mess up thinking, they're not on the banks, they're not spawning, but they may be spawning. You just have to cast a little further from the bank and let it fall down a little bit deeper. Yeah, sometimes. So it always just kind of depends on where you're at.
You know, for me, even talking about the period of the spawn itself is I don't concentrate on that shallow water, and maybe I should more. But day in and day out, I like 8 to 12 foot.
Yeah,
Me too.
That 8 to 12 foot is kind of that sweet spot for me, in my opinion. And I'm gonna look for some kind of structure for them to actually, guard and lay their eggs and do their business on. But I'm not a really shallow fisherman. Just by
you gotta try that a little bit out there.
Well,
on the
I know.
Get you that
They're
slip cord.
there.
Yo, I guarantee you.
They're there.
Oh man, yeah.
People are stacked there, but as far as me, and it comes back, I think, to fishing tournaments. You're always the mindset
Trying
of
to
a
go with the
tournament
big fish.
fisherman are going to focus on where really the bigger fish are, to say. So my mind's always been trained to look for the bigger fish from the tournament side of things. Now it's transgressed to fishing every day, and I won't put clients on big fish.
Yeah, and I'll agree that the big fish are going to be staged out a little bit. It's almost like the big females. That's why I like this time of year, because they'll kind of separate themselves. The males will be up shallower, the females will wait, and then they'll move in and out. So you always get them females kind of out there floating.
And
in
live
that water.
scopes taught us what we thought, in that they suspend out there. Those big females suspend out there. You get a sunny day, and it's up there, and the sun's got them all bright, and those females will rise up and let that sun warm their backs, let those eggs mature, and so they'll be out there suspended.
Oh yeah.
So if you find all those males up there and you're saying, why am I not getting those bigger fish?
Where's the big fish at?
They're out there, they're just suspended off of it. And the other myth I found is that we think they spawn in all one series of a day or two for a fish.
Yep.
That's not true. Life has a way of protecting itself for them, in that they'll lay some of those eggs that day, and then they'll wait a day, weeks, next spawn before they put the rest out to make sure there's continuance of the species. So
Way smarter than we are.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
We don't. They
How do
put
they
all
know
their
that?
eggs. And Mother Nature definitely
does
has
it.
it right.
Yeah.
It does the things right when it comes to
Exactly.
the spawn. It spreads it out enough that their particular genes, they're wanting to carry it on, so
Yep.
they're going to spread it out. But I'm like Dan. I think a lot of people have this thing that they're going to run up there, they're going to stay up there, they're going to spawn. Either you catch them right then or you're not, and that's really not the case.
No. And the other part of that is the photoplankton. The life of a baby crappie is they're vacated basically by the crappie. In fact, if they're not eaten by their own parents, the males, but they're up there, and within days, the biologists have said they have to have that photoplankton just right. And I think that's why our river systems are a little more finicky, because we get rise and fall of water. So back in those shallows, where in the rivers, where they come back in the shallows where it warms first, northwest corners, northwest sides.
You was reading my mind where I wanted to go already, I think, Dan.
That's the areas you want to go. And the photoplankton starts blooming in there first, so they've got to hit that just right. And in the first, why the moon? Is because the photoplankton will bloom in the moon at night. And so those babies hatch out. They
Food
don't
ready
carry
for 'em.
egg sacs, so they have to have food immediately, and that's what they eat.
That's awesome.
And you touched on it right there, and I've seen it through the years as well. Lake Washington, where I got it for a while, but
Big wall.
it started. We always would fish the northern end of the lake the earliest, and really that lake, I've seen them start spawning in late January, early February, even that early.
Yeah.
The big fish, and it kind of transitions to on down the line. But the northern end of the lake, it's going to begin earlier, and then it's almost like you said, a wave. It kind of stares itself down. So my thought is, if you go to a lake and you're catching them on the very north end this weekend, well, next weekend you're going back again. My first thought would be a little bit further south.
Yeah, start working your way south.
Work your way, start a little bit south of where you ended at, and then maybe work up north. So that's just a little tidbit that can help you locate these spawning crappie, and that's a sign to me that stop. You're fishing a section of the lake on the north part, let's say early March. You go back 2 weeks later, those fish up there are probably a little bit further down the spawning ladder by then. Well, the middle lake, they should probably
Just
be
getting
picking up,
going.
just getting going at that time frame. So work your way north, or start north and work your way south.
Yeah, and I definitely do that. Even guiding during the spawn, I'll start working my way. Like if I find them good on the north side, I'll just start slowly. When the north starts slowing down, I just keep using a boat ramp a little further south. Just keep working on them.
Now, the river is opposite to that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Away from the big water.
Yeah, because like where we're at in Alabama, we have the locks and dams, right? So the ones in the south end warm quicker because you have water coming in the upper part from the other dams, and it's colder up there because the bottom of the lake above it. And the lower end is shallower, spread out, warms quicker. So on my area down there on the river, and yours is probably the same way if it's dammed, those lower creeks off that lower area, they'll spawn earlier. And then as the season and the spawn goes on, it waves upward.
Yeah.
Back towards that deeper section.
Yeah.
Which for me, I believe is going to be north and south, but I see what you're saying now. Yeah. I moved to the clearer, deeper water later, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the, Barnett, and that's it's 34,000 acre lake, and it has a river system on the north end, and I think from the bridge itself to the next really overflows about 34 miles, and a lot of different chutes. It goes way, way up there.
Wow.
You want to burn a full tank of gas,
Oh, yeah.
hook it up.
Yeah.
You can burn it. But on that very northern end, and that's more of the river system, those fish will start spawning way earlier. And as it gets deeper, further south, that spawn's going to last later.
And I always found it fascinating, speaking of spawn, that the fish already in this cold of weather, it is February, the beginning of February, and these fish have eggs, plumb full of eggs, and they're staging up already. So it was always crazy to me that they're thinking about spawn months ahead in advance, trying to prepare for it, gorging themselves up.
Feeding up.
It's almost like deer, if you will, somewhat, that they'll. I feel like the bigger deer go out at night, the big bucks start really feeding up, really putting the bag on and being cautious and getting ready for rut way before rut hits. Kind of the same thing with spawn.
Yeah.
Crappie do the same thing. It's always like they're holding eggs, already restarting eggs by the summer. It seems like after spawn, they starting to sack bat up and slowly getting that egg started. I just think that's crazy.
Even about the egg thing, and one of the, which our biologist the other day kind of told us a little different, but in general, you'll start seeing these eggs develop in these female crappie. I did back in October. When I'm cleaning fish, and I'm like, there's a little bit of egg sac, and a lot of people at first were thinking it's a big major spawn in the fall. And those fish are just actually starting to put on those eggs
I think
and
they're
growing
just
them.
starting to grow them from then.
And it makes sense because all the shad spawns have happened, and all your shad are growing in stages in that later part of the year. Yeah. And even in the hot summertime, in our river, it's a tremendous number.
Oh, yeah.
By July, August, you've got these huge schools.
Same, yeah, unbelievable.
And they're
you can walk across
putting
them.
that weight. It's,
Yeah.
And you hear them go flopping, the shad are flopping over. And those crappie are up there just gorging on them. And with LifeScope now, we're being able to see those fish in the center of those schools eating their way out.
We've got too many shads. Seems like a lot of times, so the shad spawn, they've got it figured out pretty well too.
Yeah.
But another thing about that you can really see and tell about the spawn is when you clean fish. If you're taking some fish home and you're cleaning fish,
Looking for those those real dark veins.
Dark blood.
Getting
bloody
bloody.
veins, to say, and kind of like real golden shiny
And when you're
color.
cleaning a couple that don't have no eggs, and you got a couple that do, you're in it. And the males start really turning color. And see, the males, that's another thing. The males will start turning early too. It seems like you start catching fish mid-February on through March, all the way until June. Mid-June, probably the male fish are going to be darkened up, really dark. Before when you go to clean them, you're going to be like, "What is this? A black crappie or a white crappie?"
Right.
But
And you put them in your live well, and of course the boat is warmer than the rest of it, and you're getting close when you put them in a live well. And within a half hour,
they're all fixed up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's even those males getting next to those females, because you'll catch a fish and be like, this fish don't have any color to it. All of a sudden, you drop them next to a couple ladies, and all of a sudden he's like a little
just
peacock.
one lady though. I just need one lady. That's one lady gets me tuxed up.
That's right. Ain't no doubt about it. But great episode. Thank you guys.
You bet.
The stash is going to be around with me all day.
Yes, sir.
I've got the stash in the house with me.
Yes, sir.
Make sure you join Dustin and I. We do Today's Bite, sponsored by Bobby Garland, on Tuesday nights. It's a live thing.
A lot of fun.
We have fun. I mean, it's a fun deal, and definitely thank you, Dan, for everything that you do for Crappie Connection and in the industry as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn your notifications on, join us Tuesday nights, and we're going to talk a lot of crappie fishing like we do every week. Till next time, Brad Chappell here.
Dan Dannenmueller.
And Duh-Stache.
Duh-Stache. Holla.
About a mile from Big Muddy River, a place I'll always remember. Cabin on the lake and a fishing pole. Forever here I'll rest my soul. I can